Good morning, children. So all these days we have been learning about the earth. We have learnt the structure of the earth. We have learnt about the rocks which are present on the earth. In continuation with these topics, today we will learn about the landforms of the earth. Now, what is a landform? A landform refers to describe a natural rocky feature of the surface of the earth. So you can see on your screen the different kinds of landforms which are present on the earth. Now, landforms consist of three types: continents and oceans, which are of the first order of relief. Now, what do you mean by this? It refers to the coarsest level of landforms. That is, they have been formed due to cooling and solidification of the Earth's crust, and they occurred earliest. So they are known as the first order of relief. The second order of relief refers to mountains, valleys, plateaus, and hills. They are known as second order of relief because they have been formed due to plate collision, divergence, and convergence forces. And all other minor features like hills, plains, peneplains, lakes, they are known as the third order of relief, and they have all been formed due to erosion or deposition. Now, the systematic study of all the Earth's relief features is known as geomorphology. The Earth is a very restless planet, very unstable. There are always some kind of a movement occurring on the surface, either above it or from below. These forces bring about several changes on the earth. They are of two types: internal or endogenic forces, external or exogenic forces. Internal forces originate from deep inside the interior of the Earth's, and external forces are those which are the agents of gradation, like running water, river, wind, glaciers, etc. Now, these internal forces are continuously trying to raise the surface of the earth by horizontal and vertical movements, while the external forces are always trying to reduce these elevated layers of the earth. We will be learning about the second order of relief in the chapter, that is mountains. On your screen, you can see the photograph of a mountain. Now, what is a mountain? It is a natural relief or a natural elevation. That is, it is having a great height and it rises abruptly from the surface to a summit. Summit is the peak. You can see the peaks. It can attain an altitude of about 900 meters from the sea level and make a very steep angle, that is of 25 to 35 degrees from the horizontal. Mountains have always been formed throughout the period of the history of the earth, and the process of this mountain building is known as orogeny or orogenesis. And this process have been going on since the last 320 million years. As far as the different types of mountains are concerned, we can see over here, there are fold mountains, block mountains, volcanic mountains, and residual mountains. Here it's written dome. It is actually due to the constant denudation of a high mountain to a residual mountain. Now, what are fold mountains? Fold mountains refers to a horizontal compression which occurs under the Earth's surface, mainly due to the tectonic force. You can see over here, the plates are moving, which are below the continents or ocean floors. They are moving towards each other and they are compressing, forming anticlines or synclines. It is believed that in the geological history, there were long, narrow, low-lying areas of shallow seas. Over the period, they have been filled with huge amounts of sediments, which are deposited by rivers and winds. For millions of years, the slow and horizontal compression caused inside the crust raised the area to form wrinkles or folds. Compression caused by the tectonic force made the sediments which were collected in these shallow seas to give way or build fold mountains. Now, how did the Himalayas come into being? Nearly 60 to 70 million years ago, this part of our country, India, was located far away to the south of the equator. Now, due to plate tectonics and movement of the plates, the entire subcontinent gradually began to move towards the north. You can see over here how the continent is moving towards the north. Now, as it moved towards the north, it struck against the Eurasian plate. In between Indian plate and the Eurasian plate, there was a shallow Tethys Sea. The moving of the Indian plate carrying the subcontinent began to push against the Eurasian plate. when the two huge continental plates collided, the edge of the Indian plate was forced to go under the Eurasian plate. You can see over here how the Indian plate is made to go below the Eurasian plate. This led to the formation of the Great Himalayas. So what are young fold mountains? Young fold mountains have actually formed at a very recent or relatively recent age, that is about 30 to 35 million years ago. We also call this alpine fold mountains because the mountains took form during the alpine mountain building period. These mountains have got very steep slopes. They have got sharp pointed snowy peaks. They have a complex folding and faulting of rock layers. In many places, they can be volcanic mountains also, as for example, Cotopaxi, Aconcagua, Fujiyama. So, fold mountains around the world are also associated with volcanic mountains. The topography of these new fold mountains are extremely rough or rugged, that is, it is not smooth at all. In some places, there are intermontane plateaus, that is, plateaus in between two high mountains. The Himalayas, the Rockies, the Alps, and Andes are examples of young fold mountains. However, there have been mountains which were higher than the Himalayas or even the Rockies. But because they were formed earlier than that of the Alpine mountain system, all these mountains like the Appalachians, the Aravallis, the Urals, they all have undergone a huge amount of degradation. And these mountains had been formed nearly 320 million years ago in the Caledonian or Hercynian mountain building periods. These old fold mountains are no more having pointed peaks. Instead, they are having lower heights and their tops are sculptured like domes. You can see over here in the Aravallis, their tops have been reduced to dome-like features. You can see this in the Appalachian Mountains also. They have been eroded to such an extent that the mountain peaks have been turned round. That is, they are no more rugged or steep. Next we come to the topic, which is block mountains. Now, block mountains are formed by horizontal tensional forces which causes cracks or faults on the Earth's crust. These faults can break the crusts into blocks. When these blocks are raised, block mountains are formed. We can understand this from this diagram. So we can understand it better from this diagram. Now, due to tensional forces, these areas develop faults or cracks. Due to these cracks, the Earth crust slides down. The ones which remain in between the areas which have slided down is known as a host. You can see this over here also. These are flat topped mountains. Here you can see the flat topped mountains, and in between there is a sinking of the crust from the surrounding area, and it is known as a graben. Such mountains may be formed between two rift valleys. So what is a rift valley? When the crust between two roughly parallel faults sinks or subsides, a narrow steep-sided valley is formed, which is known as a rift valley. Rift valley is very distinctly seen in the eastern part of Africa. It extends from Mozambique in the south to Syria in the north, covering nearly 6,440 kilometers. On the ground, this rift valley looks somewhat like this. You can see over here, narrow and elongated cracks on the surface of the earth, which can be several kilometers below the surface of the earth. It is said that the Rift Valley, which is found in the eastern part of Africa, is becoming deeper and deeper, and a time will come when this entire eastern part might break away from the mainland of Africa. However, today in these rift valleys we find several lakes like Lake Malawi, Lake Tanganyika, Lake Uganda, which cover these large elongated depths of the land of Africa. As far as Rift Valley is concerned, we find Rift Valley in India also, between the Vindhyachal and the Satpura range, where the Narmada river flows. Residual mountains. When an area of highland remains standing after getting badly eroded by agents of gradation, such as winds and glaciers, the harder rock remains intact while the softer rocks is eroded. This kind of features are very common in central Spain, in western plateaus of USA. Here you can see the mountains of Western Ghats, the Aravalli mountains over here are examples of residual mountains. That is, after being eroded very badly, whatever residue or remains are known as the residual mountains. So we have come to the end of the chapter, and we have learnt in this chapter the different types of mountains, namely the fold mountains, the block mountains, volcanic mountains, and the residual mountains or dome-shaped mountains. Mountains are of great importance to us. They can be a source of hydroelectricity because several rivers originate from there, and which can be helped in the occurrence of hydroelectric power. The scenic beauty of mountains attract tourists and health seekers. The presence of trees on the mountains help us to get a lot of beneficial products. Herding is very common in mountains, and mountains provide us with different types of medicines. Mountains are of great importance to us in the sense that they also save us from the cold winds which might affect the climate of the place. I hope I have made myself clear in this entire topic. You are supposed to learn the pages from 47 to 51. That is what we have enough time for today. Thank you.